Hello and welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Amanda Comey. How you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing great.
So, anything you want to talk about?
I don't know. I mean, what is life now that Ghostbusters month is over?
I don't know. I mean, I'm scared to even mention that name at this point because I'm pretty sure everybody's sick of us talking about it.
Oh, I'm sure we're not done talking about Ghostbusters.
Oh no. And again, I just want to thank Eric Burnham for coming on the show and giving us an interview, and dashing our hopes for the Egon and Janine romance that we all longing for. Just killed those dreams.
I mean, he didn't really kill those dreams. What he did was he said those dreams live in the cartoon, I think.
I guess that's okay. Fine.
I'm really happy with that. I'm really happy to have, the Ghostbusters multiverse. And like he said, just keeping in mind how like all these different versions just make the fandom bigger.
Right. This is something I want to talk to you about. I think it affects both of us. Over the last week, DC has made some changes to how they publish books, and they closed down Vertigo. And Vertigo is responsible for probably some of the best creator-owned like comics around. Like, I think Vertigo is what makes, in my opinion, DC strong. Like it's the one thing I feel like it had over Marvel in a big way, and now it's gone. Like, it published things like Sandman and Preacher and just all these great independent books or creator-owned books. Amanda, how do you feel about the shutting down of Vertigo?
I mean, I feel like I was more frustrated. It felt like over the last 10 years that they had maybe been interfering with Karen Bergen, who's the editor of Vertigo, who really was driving some of their creativity and some of their risk taking.
Right.
It felt like she was maybe not getting to run things the way she wanted, and they ended up letting her go. And I felt like that was really the death of Vertigo, because it was more of her imprint than it was DC.
Right.
So she's already set up. I believe that Dark Horse took her in and gave her an imprint. And I'm excited to see what's going to be developing there. I feel like once DC got rid of most of the staff that was running Vertigo, it didn't make sense for them to keep it going with a zombie. I'd say the thing that I'm maybe most upset about is that there are some books I was buying. I wanted to own a copy of Transmetropolitan, and I got volumes 1 and 2. And now if I go to buy the rest of the volumes, they're not going to have Vertigo on the binding. So I think maybe I'm most frustrated just that the books in my collection aren't going to match.
I mean, DC is good for that though. DC is really good for that. When I collect the physical trades, they're good for just messing up your shelf. So
yeah.
So just some series Vertigo has published over the years. 100 Bullets. American Vampire is something we actually did when Amanda was off. That was really good. The aforementioned Transmetropolitan, Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, Sandman, again, something we did for this show. We did all of Sandman for this show, in fact. Preacher, let me see what else here. What else do we have? Why the Last Man? There's so much here. There's so much history here. So much good stuff. iZombie. There's. I think it's also worth pointing out that some of the stuff that we associate with Vertigo now was the Swamp Thing stuff. I think was originally not Vertigo, and then as they developed Vertigo, they brought it under that brand. Right. And then I believe that at some point Vertigo also absorbed Wildstorm. I was sworn they tried to make Wildstorm his own imprint not too long ago. But
yeah, they were trying to kind of bring it back a little bit. And again, it was sort of just like Warren Ellis, I think, wanted to write another Wildstorm book, and it was like, okay, fine. Like Warren Ellis can do what he wants. But again, it felt sort of like a zombie thing, like a bringing it back from the dead.
Yeah. Well, like, I get why they did it. They just trying to simplify things. But man, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on at DC, and I'm kind of worried because, like, out of the two, like, I actually prefer DC slightly, and I'm just scared of what the future holds for the brand at all. Because I always feel like DC was almost, even with their regular superheroes in a way, was almost a little more risk taking than Marvel is. You know what I'm saying? And like,
I I mean, what I liked was that they DC seemed to be supporting creators by having a really strong imprint for creator owned, non licensed, non superhero stuff.
right.
And I mean, like Marvel does too. Marvel owns Icon, but that's mostly for stuff where it's like, we're going to make a movie.
Yeah, it wasn't as good. Like, I know what Marvel had, but it wasn't. It just wasn't. You know, I don't know how. Like Marvel. Look, Marvel is always seen as the more progressive of the two, and to an extent, that might be true in a way. But as far as risk taking goes, as far as just like rattling the cages, you know what I'm saying? I feel like DC was just better at it. I mean, look. They'll let their superheroes get a dope if they feel like it was the right creative move. You know what I'm saying? They just put it under another imprint. But I feel like all that with the merger with AT&T and everybody chasing that Marvel family money, I feel like a lot of that might be going away. No more bat dick fuzz.
Well, no. I mean, I believe that they've been saying that they want to split it by ages now. So they'll have Black Label and they'll have like how Marvel has like the Max line.
Right. I don't know.
I think I'm more concerned that having the strong imprint for creator owned stuff supported it was a way of like putting their money where their values were.
Right.
And saying we value having a sandbox for things like Preacher. We value having an experimental place for weird sci-fi political stuff like Transmet. And now that they're getting rid of that, it doesn't speak as clearly, to whether that's important to them or not. In fact, it makes it sound like that's not important to them. What's important to them is their main line.
And maximizing them for maximum profit. Like, it seems like, that's where they kind of going with this. Like, we should have known it was over when they canceled that one comic earlier this year.
Which one are you thinking of?
The Jesus book, which name escaped. The Second Coming. We should have known then that when they canceled the Second Coming for Vertigo, that this was coming. Like, and it's weird too because they canceled it because they ain't want to rock the boat. But I'm like, do y'all motherfuckers know y'all published Preacher?
Yeah.
Like, which is the most sacrilegious book ever. Like, I don't understand why the Second Coming, which was like a sitcom with Jesus learning from a superhero. I don't understand that screams trouble to me. When you can't even take a lighthearted approach to a book with Jesus in it in 2019 because you're scared you're gonna rock the boat. I don't think that bodes well for where DC is going creatively in the future. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about Vertigo. I know, like, we both love Vertigo. Like, I read a lot of books from that imprint, and I hate to see it go. So much history there.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, I think we should get to our book. I have no set way. I think we should get to our book today, which you chose, which is Smile, written by Raina Telgemeier.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's the book.
That's the book. It originally came out in February 2010 for Scholastic. In just graphic novel form, it was never in single issues. It's 200.
It was a webcomic.
It was a webcomic. Okay, there you go. See, thank you. That's why Amanda's here to give me these things. It was digitally released July 29th, 2014, which is my birthday. Uh, it also won the best comic for teens at the Eisner Awards, among many other awards that it won. Like, she just have a whole list of awards for this particular book. And was it the book won the Eisner for best publication for teens. So this is like a pretty important book. The synopsis goes: Raina just wants to be a normal sixth grader. But one night after Girl Scout, she trips and falls, severely injuring her two front teeth. What follows is a long and frustrating journey with on-again, off-again braces, surgery, embarrassing headgear, and even a retainer with fake teeth attached. And on top of all that, there's more to deal with: a major earthquake, boy confusion, and friends who turn out not to be so friendly. So, Amanda, what do you think of Smile, written by Raina Telgemeier?
Um, I think this is a great book for children. Um, but it is definitely a book for children. Um, and like I I think I was disappointed with this book in one aspect, which is that um, this is very clearly an illustrated story, and there isn't too much going on with the art or the layouts to really take advantage of the medium. And I feel like part of that may be that, she was working digitally to begin with. And also part of it is making it just illustrated, makes it more readable for younger readers. But I was a little disappointed to see that it was mostly just here's the story and here are the illustrations of like what's happening in the story. I think the closest we get to something interesting happening is there is an earthquake. Her family lives in San Francisco, and it's like the big earthquake where the bridge fell down and everything. And for the earthquake, the background is black and the gutters are all jagged and shaky. And I feel like that was done really well, but otherwise there wasn't anything too fancy going on.
So, anything else that just like a quick, like I
That's
just
that. Oh no. I mean, like that's really just like my only disappointment was I feel like it was a good story. I feel like it's an important story for girls growing up to read, which we can talk about a little more. But like my only criticism is that it's for kids and it's simple.
that means it's just not made for you. But no.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna tell you something.
Uh-huh.
I looked at this book right when you suggested. I like, oh Lord, what Amanda got me reading? Because it looks simple and clear. This is a girl book. Even though I'm pretty like I'm pretty open minded. I was just like I'm not for sure if I'm going to like this. And let me tell you something, Amanda. I relate to this book so damn much in a way that I thought I wasn't. Like, true enough, she's a girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's
Uh-huh.
but like, a lot of her experiences I went through, like, just as a teenager or as a preteen. And, like, I just really related to this book. And, like, I really think it's special. I think I'm going to give this. My son turns 11 in a few days. I think I'm going to give him this book to read.
Awesome. Yeah, I have friends with kids who I'm definitely gonna loan this book out. And honestly, when I went into I mean, I feel like this is a little off topic, but when I went, I had told you I wanted to buy like a copy of the book, like a physical copy. So when I went into, I didn't go to my normal store because my normal store is actually moving locations right now. So they mostly have only their like the current stuff is out in the new store. At the old store, they're boxing up and moving. So I went to a different store to get it. And I walked in, and that store, I spoke to the manager while I was in there, and he was talking about they're building out their all ages section tremendously because that's where like all of the sales and the growth are. And I asked him for this book, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know we have like copies of it." And we went over and we looked for it, and it wasn't on the shelves. And he was like, "No, like that's not right." And he came back and he had like 10 copies that he put back out on the shelves after he gave me one. And he's like, "These will all be gone in a week."
Wow.
And he was like, they work with schools, they have people coming in like all the time. And he was just like, the biggest growth for them is in young adult, all ages books. And specifically, like all of Raina Telgemeier's stuff sells really, really well. People are always coming in asking for it. And that makes me so happy to know that like a story with a relatable story with substance is so popular, and that so many people are relating to it like you did, even though it's a story about a girl going to the dentist.
A little white girl in San Francisco? Yeah.
Oh,
by the way, it's funny. Like, how you read stuff and sometimes you imprint on the story? Like, I was like, man, it's kind of I was like, for some reason, it reminded me of you a little bit. And I know that sounds weird. Like, I was like, huh, this seems like this could be like an Amanda origin story.
A little bit. I definitely related to, like when you're in middle school, especially, a lot of people become mean just because they're testing out like how do you socialize properly.
Right.
And I just had like no patience for that. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to like not have friends for 3 or 4 years. I'm going to wait for all of you to get over this. Like, I was like, if everyone here is going to be like garbage, I'm just going to like not deal with it.
And that's the part that probably reminded me the most of you. And even though I ain't know your story, I just like, this feels like number one, the little girl, she's like white with brown hair. So it looks a lot like you in a way, like in the general sense. And like the shit she was into, I was like, I'm pretty sure like Amanda was probably a little bit like this. But that's the thing, though. I just don't think it's you. It's just because the resemblance, that's why I imprinted. I just think this is like, for any kid that ever felt slightly kind of weird in school, or maybe lean more towards the artsy side of things, I think this story is really good for them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think it's like everybody's got their thing.
Right.
And what's so interesting is that, like the girls who are making fun of her have the same story from their perspective.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, this definitely does speak a little bit more to probably literally the type of child who would be reading a comic book, who would have that sort of like maybe a little bit more creative, a little bit more liking to read type of background. But, no, I think that this, I mean, like, it's really relatable. Just middle school sucks. That's when you learn, like, how to be a person. And it's hard. Nobody's good at it.
No, they're not. And, like, man, the thing with her friends, that I can relate to, like on a deep, like, cellular level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, specifically what her friends were just like, I don't know, they would do things to her which were sort of like, if you saw this on TV, it would be funny and you would laugh at it. But they were like not appreciating that she was a real person right there and it was hurting her feelings.
I don't know. It seemed mean when I was reading it. And the thing is, the weird thing is, like, it happens for years. And it's that thing of, like, when you're young, you quite don't understand what they're doing. Like you might be just slow in the uptick that, like, these broads kind of mean to you. But you don't know that. You just happy to have friends. So you willing to, like, deal with it or acquiesce a little bit. But then as you
Yeah.
get older, more mature, you realize that oh, they're terrible. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just that really took me because I think there's a lot of people's stories and they just don't talk about it. Like
Hmm.
sometimes sometimes you have friends that really are not your friends, or sometimes you just outgrow people. I have people now that I just don't talk to anymore. That wasn't necessarily mean to me. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
There's another aspect of this I want to bring up, which I think was sort of a brilliant way of making the story relatable,
Okay.
which is, okay. My husband asked me for a plot synopsis because he was like, "What the hell are you reading?"
Hmm.
And I described to him the dental plot line first, and he goes, "Stop, stop! This is horrifying."
Yeah,
Okay, so first of all, this is a little bit of body horror.
a little bit, a
And what
little.
that led me to realize is that this book becomes relatable for boys and girls because you can use her dental trauma as a metaphor for puberty.
Right.
Like she's going through this thing which is changing her body and is painful and weird, and everyone's making fun of her for it. And she sort of is living for a while with this belief that once it's over, everything will be easier.
Yeah.
And then when it's suddenly over, she realizes that she has more work to do herself. Um, and so I think that, like, even if you specifically, like, I didn't have to, I didn't go to an orthodontist. I never had braces. My teeth were like medium good. Um, but I can relate to like going through puberty. Like I can relate to middle school sucking. I can relate to glasses.
Let's be
Uh,
real. Even if you got good teeth, going to the dentist fucking sucks. Nobody likes going to the dentist. and just to see somebody that's
yeah.
constantly going to the dentist, it must be.
Oh, and like all of the different types of dentists.
I know, right?
Yeah. Did you have to wear braces or anything?
Nah, even if I had to, my family couldn't afford it. So
Yeah.
maybe I need them. I don't know.
Uh,
I do know this. And the fact that it's just happened, like it's just something that happens, right? It's nothing like you know what I'm saying. It wasn't like it was dramatic. She just ran, like, and that's how it happens a lot of times, right? It just a,
yeah.
yeah. Um. Also, I like how they talk about how how maybe girls can be mean to each other.
You were surprised?
Look. I'm trying not to sound sexist because look, fuck it. Look. There's a part of me that knows for a fact that as much if toxic masculinity is a thing, I don't know what you call what girls do to each other, but shit, like
Yeah, no, girls can be mean to each other
in a
in
way,
ways which are soul crushing and traumatic and lead you to doubt yourself. When boys are mean to each other, they're just mean in a way that you don't like internalize.
right? Exactly.
Like girls aim for the heart. um no, I mean that's why I think this story is so important is because it has a little bit of that in a way that's very real and it makes you I don't yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. It's bringing up memories for me.
Like there's so much and it's a huge part of this book. You know what I'm saying? Because like it starts off with like them kind of laughing at her teeth. Then it was like, oh, those pigtails make you look like a kid, and she takes the pigtails out. And then she was like, Mom, I want my ears pierced. She's like, well, ain't you a little young for that? Like this and that might have like, no, it makes me look grown up. And it's just like she doing all this stuff so her friends won't quote unquote, you know, laugh at her.
Yeah.
But It didn't matter. They just found new ways. They just found new ways to be shitty.
Yep.
I'm not laughing at your pain, Amanda. I'm just how you saying it. You're like, yeah.
No, I'm trying to think of, any specific stories that I can tell in less than 5 minutes without crying, and I'm not coming up with any.
And like I like how like as the book go on, because the book take place over a 4-year period. Even though they have a hard time like judging time, or if there was a tale, I could never see it. You know what I'm saying? But like her friends get more and more quote unquote adult. Not adult, I guess adult ain't the word, but more and more girly. While she kind of stays the same because she's really not into that. But
Yeah.
like as it goes on, like you know what I'm saying, they're wearing like they're wearing like tighter clothes. You know what I'm saying? They're wearing like like more elaborate earrings. Their hair is different. Makeup, lipstick. You know what I'm saying? And like she doesn't do any of that, right? And that's fine. You don't have to. That shouldn't have to be like, you know what I'm saying, a thing that you do.
Yeah.
But they ridicule her for not being like that. So much so that they had her dress. Well, what was that for her birthday? That they
Yeah, it looked like she was having like a slumber party for
yeah.
her birthday, and the girls gave her a makeover that made her look like a baby prostitute.
Look,
And
you said I didn't.
and then they start laughing at her for how ridiculous she looks. And she's like, what if I'd really believed you guys and gone to school like that? That wouldn't have been very funny. And they're like, no, it would have been hilarious. And that's kind of where I came up with that comment of like these girls are taking things that they've seen and trying to figure out like how do you really interact with people. And
right.
They haven't learned that just because this like that would be, like I said, that would be funny on television. But you have to remember that everyone around you is a real person.
Right.
And they're still learning that part.
Just like this pressure that she has to be something that she's not. Like,
Right.
which is like, I don't know, man. I feel that shit. I did a lot of stupid things in my youth to try to be somebody that I'm not. So I understand
Yeah.
where that where the temptation for that comes from, and not really having the sense to know who's your friend and who's not. But yeah, let me see. Where is it? There, she has a couple of crushes in this book, which I think are very realistic. She likes one boy to end up not liking him anymore, and end up liking another boy.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting to say that the first boy she likes is younger than her, and her friends tease her about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's sort of because her friends didn't approve that she was like, no, 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 like, I don't like him. And, then she has this crush on this other boy and she feels like she has to keep it hidden. And I don't know, her friends tease her about it forever. I can definitely relate to that a lot.
And she ended up treating the other boy horribly.
Yes.
And like she feels bad about it because she's a good person, but it was just too late. But like it just like she, while not meaning to, she kind of broke that boy's heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So this book is really hard to talk about without going into testimonials about yourself.
That's why I think it's such a good book, because this is the sort of thing like I need to prepare my friend when I give her this book and say like, oh, you can read this with your kids. I need to prep her to be like, you are going to be talking about middle school with your children, and like warn her and be like, don't just like give this to them and walk away, because like you're going to need to be mentally prepared to talk about like your first homecoming dance.
Right.
And I think that's really important. I think like the value of this book is the discussion that it generates around it more than the actual like pages that I'm holding,
Mm-hmm. Then there's this thing about just the whole like practicing with boys. You know what I'm saying? Like how to flirt. Whatever she called practice flirting, and like spin the
Yeah.
bottles and all that stuff. Like all that traumatizing stuff. That
Yeah.
I do like the joke when she says I don't want to do it because that everybody kept saying ew, gross. Plus, why would I want to make out with them? They're gross.
Yeah.
That was great. Also, she's now like another thing about this that I really appreciate is that she's not a tomboy in the traditional sense that she's active, which she tries and fails miserably at, but that's okay. Everybody can't be athletic. Is that it seems that she relates more with boys than she do with girls in a lot of instances.
Yes. Yes.
Now, look, since you're a girl, is that something that you might have went through?
Um, so there's definitely, I mean, this is a whole like can of feminism worms
I just see
where
that's the thing that's why I'm so weird to talk. That's why I feel so weird about talking about this book in a lot of ways because like I don't want to
well,
go ahead.
yeah, because well, no, so like every woman has to at some point decide, like not decide, but determine like how feminine she's comfortable being,
Right,
and how much of the stuff that women have access to they want to indulge in. Like, some women really love fashion and makeup, and those are considered traditionally feminine, and like it's cool for them to do that. So other people aren't really into it, or they don't find it interesting. And high school is when a lot of people like try that out. Things which aren't feminine are kind of assumed to be guy things.
right, masculine.
So, yeah, so what we're seeing is that her interests, which are actually neutral, as the other girls start trying to play around with feminine things that are available to them, she gets shifted into the boys group just by default because the things that they all liked before are now like coded as boy things.
Right,
Um, and depending on like what your interests are, that's totally a thing that happens. Like I was very good at math growing up, and math is like not really a gendered thing, but at some point I ended up in classes with all boys and I was hanging out with the boys and talking about Star Wars, and Star Wars again, not super gendered, but when your female friends are spending 50% of their time negotiating what Cosmo is recommending they wear, that's 50% of their time they can't spend talking to you about Star Wars.
right. And she says like say things like boys are good for video game tips. They don't give a flack about her appearance, and then was like real willing to talk about important issues. So are you guys ready for high school? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, those are not boys' things per se.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah,
again,
it's not that she's into boy things, it's that she wasn't into girl things and got kind of left behind by the peer group that was.
so let me
Uh,
so let me ask you this, Amanda. Did you ever wear Teen Spirit deodorant?
um, I don't think I wore that brand.
I seem like, oh shit, Teen Spirit. Of course, that's famous
Yeah,
because Nirvana named their song after that
yeah,
deodorant. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Teen Spirit deodorant. I haven't seen. Do they still make that? I know it has nothing to do with the book, but
I mean, I'm sure they do.
we just can't. I want to talk about just like the trauma she goes through with the dentist. What
Oh, no, 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 go ahead. Go ahead.
she at one point she just faints.
Yeah.
And her mom gets real mad because they didn't ask her to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was like mom, that was pretty awesome.
Well, and I think the timing of that is important too
Right.
because her mom standing up to that doctor,
Right.
wasn't that right around the time she stood up to her friends for the first time?
Thematically, it was like that next, like that happened in summer. Her telling her friends how it happened in fall. So yeah, thematically it does fit together. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah. So no, you are right there in a sense, but yeah, that's they pulled the girl dress down. God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, maybe funny on television, not funny in real life.
And then like what you had on leggings, so it doesn't matter. And here's the thing about all that cruelty: it's not super cruel, but it's just cruel enough. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not doing like, cause like I've seen girls do some real mean shit, and I've heard of girls doing real mean shit, and it's not
Yeah.
quite that, but
Well,
it's
I mean, this is before the internet, so the
yeah.
girls didn't have more, as many resources.
Plus, I feel like she stopped it before it escalated. I think that's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
like if you keep being people punching bag, they'll escalate that even more. You know what I'm saying? If you just let them keep happening, they'll just try more and more things on you. So she stopped it before then. Also, she was talking to her friends about. Well, her friends were talking to her stuff about like other stuff, and she said like, "Why can't we just talk about cartoons? Why you doing still?" Like I felt that I remember being 13 and still getting action figures for Christmas, and my friends being like, "What the hell is wrong with you, Jamal?" Like, well, I guess this last year I'm getting action figures. Then how to show them now, right? No, but
Yeah. So now here's a very hypothetical question that neither of us can answer.
right.
Um, I'm wondering if the fact that this was set in the late 80s makes it less relatable for kids today.
I don't think so. There's nothing in here that screams late 80s. The only way you'll know it was the late 80s is like lack of cell phones, but they don't necessarily like that won't actually tell it. And like by them playing like Nintendo, like they clearly
Mhm.
playing the first Nintendo, but besides that, you really can't. There's not much here. It's timeless. Like Ghostbusters is timeless, Amanda.
I mean, I was just wondering because I feel like when I read stories about those kids these days, a lot of it is about like, harassing each other on Instagram or something, or like sharing like ugly photos of each other to everybody, or like airdropping embarrassing memes. I don't know.
Could you imagine we had that in high school? Um, like
I honestly can't.
that's like these poor little bastards.
I don't even know. I was in college and were just starting to like text. I
Right,
couldn't even imagine having the distraction of a phone in college.
right. And she eventually makes new friends
She does.
who all seem really cool.
In real life, without the internet, she found more nerds in her high school.
I know, right? It almost seemed like if you just open your goddamn eyes, you'll find people like you.
I'm like, suspension of disbelief broken. There were cool people at her high school.
Right? Exactly. You know,
Unbelievable.
but at the same time, I do get it. You don't want to hang with nobody like you. You want to hang with the cool people. But no. You are right though. Like if you just open your eyes, you'll see. Also, her appearance changes by the time she gets to sophomore. She's wearing her hair down. It's curly. She has earrings. Like she looks markedly different than what she did look like at the beginning. Like so,
Yeah.
this take place from 11 to 15. It seems.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like that might be my one complaint that like the movement of time don't seem quite what it should be. Like I don't know when it takes big gaps and when it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like 1 minute she's like 11, the next minute she's like almost 13, and you really don't know where. You know what I'm saying?
Um,
Where the change, unless there's something like I didn't notice that will clearly tell me besides them actually saying it.
well, no, I mean, like it goes through. It'll say, like on the last day of school year, and then like later that summer, and then the next fall, or 2 hours later. Like it's pretty good at introducing each section. Um, but I feel like, maybe this goes back to my only criticism was maybe there was visually something she could have done to make it clear that time was passing a little bit more.
Right.
I mean, something that would be really obvious. You were saying that like eventually her hair changed. Maybe having it change like more drastically would have helped, like showing it growing over the year.
This might would have helped too. And this is gonna sound way more pervy than like I mean for it to say. Maybe she could have grown boobs, like not like huge like boobs, but like her mom do say, "Hey, you might need a bra at some point."
Yeah.
But she say, but like it never really shows like on her body, and that's fine. Not saying you gotta have big boobs, but it doesn't seem like she's necessarily growing. It's like everybody around her is growing, but her. It seems like all her friends get taller than her.
Yeah.
But she still seems like she's the same age.
This also, that also may be a limitation with her illustration style, is that it's hard for her to show things like facial structure growing and changing.
Right.
Since everyone's face is sort of like just sort of round and animated, like the emphasis is on the expression and not like physically how they look.
Well, I will say this for a webcomic, for something that started off as a webcomic. I do think the layouts are pretty good. I mean, they're simple. Like you said, they are simple.
Yeah.
But like some webcomics are like woof, we've talked about this where like I don't read webcomics because a lot of it does like it's not traditional like comic book layouts, and some of it can be pretty rough. I think all in all, while the layouts are simple, I do think that she does a good job with the sequential art regardless. I do think that.
Yeah.
I
think this is a great book to like transition a kid into learning how to read comics.
Right. There you go.
Because I mean, like, it's understood pretty well that you can't just hand a kid a child book. You can't hand a kid a chapter book and just like have them read a novel. You sort of need to like teach them how to read.
Right.
And the same thing happens with comics. Like you do need to learn how to read comics, and just because there's pictures doesn't mean you automatically know how to read it. So I think that this is like not just age appropriate in content, but also age appropriate in like how complicated the language is and how complicated the layouts and stuff are. So yeah, I think it's appropriate. I just, I'm an adult, so I found it a little bit boring.
Should we talk about her interracial crush? We're gonna talk about look. We talked about feminism. Let's just do all the taboos.
Yeah. Her second crush was one of the black boys on the basketball team.
Right.
And she even tries out for the basketball team because she thinks that then she'll have something to talk about with him. I thought that was cute. Like in the story, it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Which I think is great.
Which is funny because if this was real life, it would so be a big deal. Hell, it's a big deal now. And it's weird too because this is set during the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go by 80 movies, black and white people just didn't mix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, her parents never knew about it.
That is true.
And her friends teased her about it.
But they teased her about everything, so.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's funny how, like, our media, I'm just thinking about the media back then, right? There's no interracial couples that I can just think of off the top of my head from the 80s that's in our media. Mm-hmm. That was in the media that we watch. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the Jeffersons, like Tom and whatchamacallit, like that, but that was meant to be boundary pushing, like, but like I can't think of any. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's interesting that she put that in the book. That's all. It seems like she's trying to normalize a lot of things that should be normalized. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about everything, Amanda. I think this is going to be a shorter than usual episode, especially after I edit it.
I mean, I think that's fine. It's a short story. It's simple.
It's
It's already.
It's 224 pages. It's not short, but it's a quick read. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also multi-award winning, so it's not like anyone would be surprised that it was good.
Right. It's no slouch.
I think it's awesome that these books sell so well. This is like what I want the next generation growing up on.
Right. So, a very smart man on the show once said that, man, comic companies should really do more through Scholastic. I don't know who that guy was, but I think he was pretty damn smart. So let's just talk about that for a second. Do you think this would be a viable thing for comic companies to do?
First of all, like the Scholastic Graphics imprint, like, okay, here's a great number I found.
Okay.
The first printing of Raina's most recent book was 500,000.
Wow.
Okay. How many books does Batman sell every month?
By 130.
Right. So
on a good month, but yeah.
Right. So Scholastic is already doing a great job publishing young adult graphic novels. And the fact that Marvel and DC are behind, pretty much, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this. Could they, because most of their books are for teens anyway, right? Like it's a little adult, right? But it's for teens. Could they publish some of those books as Scholastic books? Or would they have to just make a whole imprint to print under Scholastic? Like could they possibly take some of their less offensive stories, not necessarily kiddie stories, but just less. Let's just take Batman, because Batman I was dealing with serial killers and rapists and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Could they take not as salacious, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and turn it into a Scholastic book? Could that be something they could do? Or would they have to make books specifically for this? Would they have to make a Batman book specifically for this? And would that even work? Or does it have to be something simple like this for people to read? I'm sorry, I'm just asking you all these questions at once. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, so I think Scholastic has a benefit over DC and Marvel right now, which is that I said I went to a different comic book store than I usually go to specifically to pick this up.
Right.
I also could have gone to Target or Walmart or Barnes and Noble or our grocery store, I think, might even. So one of the benefits of going through a book publisher is that you can be sold wherever books are sold, and you don't have to have a subscription with Diamond to pre-order your books 6 months out and then pick them up on a specific Tuesday night.
Right.
So I think it would be brilliant if DC and Marvel realized that they could go around Diamond. And I know that DC recently did those Walmart omnibuses.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people were really into those. And I know that Archie, for example, still gets sold in digest form outside of comic book stores.
Archie is apparently the top selling comic every month. But since Diamond don't count it.
Yes, we forget about it all the time. Exactly. So, I mean, I think that DC and Marvel are sometimes limiting themselves by how they distribute books.
So my thing is this: is Scholastic is it a publisher or can it be a distributor? Because if I was them, I would team with Scholastic. Just straight up, that's who I would team with. I don't understand why they don't. I just don't. it seemed like the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not sure, like, legally how it works and stuff. But I do have another issue, I think, which is I was talking about how I feel like this is a good primer to learn how to read a comic book.
Right.
And even the stories that Marvel and DC do that are aimed younger or all ages aren't necessarily visually simple
I did
or
well.
have like the basic visual grammar, and they may just be difficult for kids to read.
Well, that was my other question before I stopped myself was like, would they had to make specific books for it to work? Right, like something a little more simple. You know what I'm saying? And but put some thought into it, because like a lot of times their children's selection, their all ages selection is lacking.
Yeah.
Like look at this book, right? It's not edgy or anything. You know what I'm saying? But like it does tackle issues. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't understand why maybe you couldn't do that with a Batman or Iron Man, or you could definitely do it with Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so, and I think that this part of this is just we are not the target audience.
Right.
But I mean, Marvel and DC do try to do that a little bit already. IDW actually publishes Marvel's all ages stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was something that Eric mentioned
Yeah.
when we interviewed him, is that he actually got to write Spider-Man that way.
Mm-hmm.
But having IDW license your Marvel stuff to do all ages books does not get around that fundamental problem of like parents don't necessarily want to take their 9-year-old into a comic book store somewhere. Put your book on the shelf in the Target where you're going anyways.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand why they don't do that. Like it seems
Get your book published in a way that it can be at the school book fair.
And like
get your book in the catalog that school librarians see when they're ordering materials for their classes,
And apparently that's what they do with Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl. Like
yeah.
I heard Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl is really popular with the school kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't you do that for Spider-Man?
I mean, I think half of it is they do and we just don't know. And part of it is some sort of, I mean, like the people running Marvel aren't prioritizing this. They're prioritizing keeping the long-term readers who are getting bored and getting older over getting the new readers. That's my opinion. That's everything that I see Marvel and DC doing seems like they are going after that, 50-year-old guy who's been reading Batman for 35 years and trying to figure out how to sell him an extra book every month rather than figuring out how to get like 10, 13-year-old girls hooked on like a Poison Ivy ongoing.
Well, well, number one, I don't think Poison Ivy should have an ongoing, but that's a whole nother conversation that I'm not even.
I mean, that's the thing. You don't, but like Tumblr 100% wants a Poison Ivy book, right?
Amanda, don't get me started. You know, I think Tumblr people ruin comic books because if you let them tell Poison Ivy is a good guy, and I fundamentally have a problem with that. But again, we're not going to.
Well, it just seems so funny to me that the comic book companies are so clearly like they've sold out, and yet they won't go all the way and just completely sell out. They still pretend to have like standards, and I'm like, this is really weird. Like, if you really want the money, there are obvious places to go get it.
For the money, right, exactly. Look, they got like West Coast Avengers and like the new West Coast Avengers, and it's like, boy, I was like, if this ain't like a Tumblr's like dream book, I just Tumblr people dream book. And like, look at someone like Miss Marvel, right? Who like I don't criticize. That's clearly Miss Marvel is clearly made for like younger people and people on the internet because she write fan fiction and she calls herself
Yeah.
a fangirl. You know, all the stuff that make my eye twitch.
Uh huh.
But it's good though because people like the character, and I really have people like the comments. It's just as a middle aged black man, it personally makes my eye twitch. Look what they did with America in Ultimates at the beginning when she's dancing over the phone.
Yeah.
You remember that? You remember when I wanted to jump out the window, Amanda?
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what? That moment, reading that comic in that moment with America dancing with her girlfriend over the phone was like watching middle school in like five the proximity embarrassment, like the cringe was it was like reading this book.
Yeah, yeah. But in here, but at least in Smile was intentional. See, look, you got me started. But you right. If they really wanted to sell out, if they really wanted to like, just be like, we want all the money. There's ways to do. Like I can clearly see it. I can like, so I know they have to. I just think they could do more with this. But I don't know if I like. If they try to appeal to a young artist, I don't know if I want Spider-Man talking like it's lit fam. I don't know if I really, but if that means he could sell 500,000 copies a month, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. Anyway, we have went on long enough. So
Okay.
Amanda, what are we reading next week?
We are going to go to the other extreme. We are going to read Sex Criminals, which is Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky on art, actually. We were discussing earlier, you know him as a writer. And I believe we were going to look at the first two volumes.
Yes, we are.
All right. I am really looking forward to literally the exact opposite of what we just read. And yet I think it may also be ultimately a story about friendship and growing up.
Oh boy.
Aren't all stories about finding your way in the world?
Yeah, and Amanda,
Yeah.
if people would like to reach us with questions, comments, and concerns, especially at the next episode, where can they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. You can also email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are the Comic Book Club on Facebook. There are several. I'm sure we are the first ones that will come up when you search for us, though, because we're the best.
That's right. And with that, we are done with this episode. I am Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.